okay. I have no intro for this. Damn. Hello and welcome to FCTR, I am Hugh McQuaid, and today we are talking about AEW Revolution 2023, the first AEW Pay Per View of the year. But before we dive into that, please hit subscribe, please like this video, please comment your thoughts on Revolution down in the comments below, and I'll try and apply to every single one of them. Let's talk about this show. So, wow, this was an incredible show. An absolutely incredible show. It was AEW on top form. There were very, very few negatives I have to say about this show. Overall, I think it was a flawless night of professional wrestling, and I enjoyed pretty much every single moment of it. There was nothing on it that I hated or thought was terrible. There was one thing that I thought was questionable at best that we will get to, because that's how a review works. I'm going to run through the card, run through the matches, run through the angles, and I'll let you know my thoughts as we dive through. Starting off with the two people that I feel the most sorry for on this show. We're talking about the main card. I haven't actually watched the 0 hour pre-show, I'm afraid. We're starting with the main card. I feel really sorry for Chris Jericho and Ricky Starks, who opened the show, closing off their feud, and I feel sorry for them because they had an incredible match that is going to be completely overshadowed by some of the other matches on this card. Like, on a Dynamite, on anything else, this would be a top tier match. I really enjoyed this. I think this was better than their first encounter. Really fast paced, really well worked, and Jericho is just, he's still got it. He hit a very scary looking lion salt. The spear into the code breaker was just phenomenal. And I think while the angle was a bit wonky of having Sammy Guevara come down to assist Jericho, he gets taken out by Action Andretti. I think that worked to an extent. And seeing Ricky Starks counter the Judas effect, it was one of the coolest counters that I've seen of the Judas effect. It was up there with like Arn Anderson blocking Malachi Black's Black Mass. I just thought it worked really well, and it put a good stopper on this feud. Ricky Starks picked up the win. There was no angle. There was no way to continue this. It was a definitive win for Ricky Starks, and I'm really happy with that. He can move on. Jericho can move on after a really crisp, really fun, and entertaining match right here. Next up, we got a match that was added pretty late in the day, considering we've been building this show for a while, and that is Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy in a final burial match. Basically, a buried alive match. The first thing I really liked about this is it followed the tradition of a buried alive match, in which you had the casket and you had soil all around it and a spade. It looked cool. And I think this worked really well to establish Jungle Boy, because Jungle Boy's been a bit iffy. You don't really know what to do with his character, and a bit wayward, if you will. But this, he looks really good in this. I like seeing a more badass Jungle Boy. I'm not too keen on the whole, I don't know if I can do this, the unsure, like not wanting to go to the dark place Jungle Boy. I like Jungle Boy having a little bit of edge to him, and I think he had that in this match. It was really, some really good stuff. The really nasty bump that Jungle Boy took when Christian Cage just sweeped his leg from the steel steps, and he landed back first on that. I think for a buried alive match, it worked well, because they can be a bit tedious, but this was really fast paced and really enjoyable. Ended with a huge dive from Jungle Boy, did a huge somersault off the stage onto Christian, and then after an unprettier on a chair which looked nasty, Jungle Boy gets the upper hand, bursts out of the coffin, and he gets Christian in the snare trap, puts the spade in between his mouth, similar to what what Edge did to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I'm pretty sure that was how it worked, not the other way around. So very similar in that regard. I like that sort of little bit of nuance there. And then Concerto from Jungle Boy puts Christian Cage in the casket. Casket drops down. Another feud bookended. Jungle Boy can move on from Christian Cage. That looming shadow has gone. He has put those demons to rest in what was a really fun and entertaining blow-off to their feud. Okay, then we got my personal match of the night. I might be in the minority for this because I know there's a lot of love for the Iron Man match out there, but the Elite versus House of Black was everything I wanted it to be, everything I ever could have wished it had been. I absolutely adored this match. Kenny Omega squaring off with Buddy Matthews at the beginning was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It was like two people looking in the mirror, the Spider-Man meme. And then Malachi Black coming in and squaring off with Kenny, and you get that showdown. I'm like, oh my God, they've done nothing to build House of Black, but I'm so excited to see this. And then you get a little bit of comedy in there with Matt Jackson coming in and saying he wants to fight Brody King. Brody King comes in and he immediately tries to tag out. I thought that was really fun dynamic. Then you just got into it, and it was fucking amazing. There was just so many cool spots. Brody King kicking out of a 450 at 1, I loved. You've got hitting the Dante's Inferno for a great near fall from the House of Black, and it went so back and forth, this match did, leading to, I don't know if it was my favourite. Oh, it's so hard. This finish was just ungodly good, and I wasn't expecting it. Nick Jackson does a springboard 450. He's going for the Meltzer driver on Malachi Black. Springboard 450 into a pop-up knee from Buddy Matthews that was just the slickest thing I've ever seen. Dante's Inferno, 1, 2, 3. The House of Black and the New Trios champions. An insane match. There's too much to run down, too many spots. I didn't take notes for this match because I just wanted to soak it in and enjoy it, as it was my most anticipated match on the card, and it absolutely delivered. Go out of your way to see this match because the House of Black are awesome, the Elite are awesome, and I want to see more of this. Do another best of 7. Fuck it, just do it. House of Black, Elite, best of 7 series again. Run it back. Sadly though, someone had to follow that, and it was Soraya versus Jamie Hayter versus Ruby Soho for the AEW Women's Championship. They had to follow that. This was a really good match. I really enjoyed this triple threat. I thought it was really fun. Everyone looked great. But like the crowd, the placement on the card didn't help it. It was a little bit draining because we just had such a hot trios match that this match struggled to get going, struggled to get in some gears. Maybe it's because the story's not quite clicking. I thought they all worked really well together. I think Soraya looked really good. Jamie Hayter was the standout of this, hitting great move after great move after great move. But it just didn't click. The dynamics weren't clicking for me, and I think that's because of the story. And the finish in itself was a roll-up. Jamie Hayter won with a roll-up on Ruby Soho, retains the Women's Championship, leading to the angle. Ruby Soho turned heel on Jamie Hayter after seemingly fighting off Soraya and Toni Storm. We now have a heel Ruby Soho joining the WWE, what are we calling him? Reed? No? What? The Outsiders. The WWE invading force of Soraya and Toni Storm. Ruby Soho has joined that crew. I'm interested to see where this goes. I think they just need to put a little bit more character on them, and maybe in the roots of an Inner Circle vibe, a sports entertainer vibe, because right now they just feel like bratty college students, the best I can sort of describe it. So I'd like to see them put a bit more character on that group. Fun match, decent enough angle. It's just sandwiched in a bad spot, this one. So, deathmatch. Let's talk about the deathmatch. Jon Moxley versus Hangman Page in a terrifyingly brutal not even barbed, well, there was barbed wire there. It's not a barbed wire death match though. It was a Texas death match, and it was just brutal. It was brutal. A lot of blood in this one. A lot of wince-inducing spots from Moxley particularly. A lot of barbed wire being raked across people's backs, and it was wonderful violence. If you're not into death matches, this might not be for you, but for me, it was a perfect end to the Moxley Hangman saga. Really, really enjoyed a lot of stuff they did here. Moxley bringing the fork out of his boot, because of course he did. You got a sick bump through a barbed wire board, which Moxley sold like... Just the way he sold that, the pause and then the scream, was masterful. Absolutely masterful. And you couldn't help but feel for him because he sold it so well. He sold it so well. Bricks were involved in this. Bloody Moxley hit a curb stomp on Hangman onto some bricks. It was like, wow, they really are diving headfirst into this deathmatch thing. And the finish, again, I absolutely loved. So the finish came after a few really good near falls, and then Hangman, he has a brutalized and beaten Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley's got a chain round his neck. Hangman buckshots Moxley. Moxley staggers, goes towards the rope. Hangman clotheslines him over, and then he does Hangman's noose with the chain onto Moxley, and Moxley taps out. He submits in the Texas Deathmatch. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first time Moxley has ever tapped out in AEW, and I think that's a perfect way for it to happen. The Hangman won. The Hangman won with the Hangman's move. I think that does loads for Hangman Page. I think Hangman Page will be skyrocketed towards MJF, potentially straight away. And I think Moxley is going to get involved in some trios action with the Blackpool Combat Club. And I think this was a perfect match to send both guys in separate directions. Loved this. It was really fun and really brutal. So if that's your thing, check it out. Next up, we had probably the one dud for me. Well, not even dud, because that sounds a bit harsh. This match just didn't really need to exist. I'm not too keen on Wardlow versus Samoa Joe. It's not my feud. And the match itself, everyone was drained again from the Texas Deathmatch. And this should have been a bit snappier, a bit shorter. I mean, Wardlow got it off to a hot start because he hit a fucking whisper in the wind from the turnbuckle straight onto Samoa Joe, but then it did nothing special. This was nothing special. This was easily could have been placed in the middle of a Dynamite for me, and I'm not too keen on seeing Wardlow as champion. I like the finish. I like the fact that Wardlow choked out Samoa Joe, but I'm not overly keen on seeing Wardlow with the TNT Championship. I think that ship has sailed, in my opinion. I'm not keen on seeing Wardlow versus Hobbs, in my opinion. So, yeah, a bit of a bundle, something like that. One of those words. And I'm not overly sold on this. It was fine. This was borderline fine, but it didn't need to be on the show. The next match was the four-way tag, the Acclaimed versus Orange Cassidy and Danhausen versus the Guns versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. This was fun. I really liked this match. I think it was really entertaining. I think that there's a glaring issue with this match in that the entertaining people were not the champions because... but everything else worked. I'm relatively into a feud between Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and best friends Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. I think Danhausen got to shine a little bit. He did some really funny spots. His stare down with Satnam Singh was really funny, and they just worked well together. That was what I was interested in within this match, was Triple J versus the best friends, not necessarily the Acclaimed versus the Guns, which is what the feud has been centered around. I think the Acclaimed sort of got pushed to the side a little bit. They had a few good near falls. Daddy Ass hitting Satnam Singh with the Famouser. That was really good. Really like that. But the ending, right? We need to talk about the ending because there was a lot of good action in here. A lot of funny bits. Jeff Jarrett and Orange Cassidy at the beginning. That was really funny. But the ending, when Danhausen was pinned by the Guns and the crowd went silent, like deathly silent. I think we were all expecting a title change here. I don't think we were expecting the Guns to retain. At least I wasn't. But my God, the air got sucked out of that crowd when they won, and I don't think it was in a good way. I think this was a bad move to keep them on the Guns, even if they are, taking on FTR, who appeared after the show. I don't think that's a feud people are particularly into. Definitely not into the Guns as champs, and that really, really showed when they lost well, not lost, when they won, retained the belts. It was not a good move in my opinion. If it were me, I would genuinely put the belts on Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. I think that's just a really funny dynamic that could have lasted at least a pay-per-view cycle. At least they get a reaction. At least Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal get a reaction, but the Guns have little to no heat. The FTR return was cool, so they cut a promo after and FTR came out picking up that feud that I don't really want to see. But FTR are back, they're probably going to win the belts. All's good. So yeah, bad decision, but a really fun and entertaining 4-way match that got the crowd into it, just not the champs. And then we had the main event. MJF versus Brian Danielson, 60-minute Iron Man match for the AEW World Championship. This is going to be a lot of people's match of the night. I'm not denying that it was an incredible feat, an incredible match. The trios match just hit me different, okay? That hit me right in the soul. This was just a flawless piece of technical wrestling and wrestling overall and wrestling storytelling. It was tremendous, absolutely tremendous. It is one of the best matches of the year. I loved it, don't get me wrong, but I also love the trios matches, so don't come at me. The way they told this story, I think it was just an incredibly structured match, and it got a little bit messy with the first few falls, because I don't think commentary really knew what to do. Commentary overall on this show, I think, was a bit iffy, in my opinion. I didn't think everything landed, and it almost seemed like they didn't know what was going on at times. I think it was a bit iffy, the commentary here. But the DQ from MJF was great. I like the idea that this Iron Man match, there's no respite, there's no waiting. You can just pin someone straight away. I think that's how an Iron Man match should be, in my opinion, because it seems weird it's not really an Iron Man match if you're having a break. So I think that worked really well. You got some really cool spots. MJF flying through a table with an elbow drop. The middle portion, full of technical wrestling, full of roll-ups, full of all that good stuff that was showcased in the MJF match against Darby Allin. Let us not forget. And just so much happened in this match till it eventually ended up 3-3. And MJF's just cheating. MJF is cheating his way through this contest. And then he taps at the very end, just as the time has elapsed, 1 second after. His leg has been worked over by Danielson. So it's a story of MJF. His knee was tweaked from a moonsault that he did, and Danielson's shoulder from the weeks of turmoil that MJF has given him. That was the issue with Danielson that was worked over. And I think it was just masterfully told. And that leading to the draw, I was like, okay, we're going into overtime here. Crowd's chanting bullshit. Then I'm not going to let this slide. And indeed, we head into overtime. Oxygen masks were brought out, which I thought was a really nice touch. MJF drinking water throughout the match, a really nice touch. And yeah, we went into the overtime sequence. The overtime sequence was easily the best portion of the match. Flawless, absolutely flawless. Loads of near falls. MJF constantly trying to cheat, trying to use the diamond ring. Low blows Danielson as well. And it was just flawless. I'm saying flawless again because I'm thinking about it, and it is an incredible piece of wrestling, this. MJF wins with the label lock. He's worked over the shoulder of Danielson that much that he locks in the label lock, yanks it back. Looks like Danielson's not going to tap. He does the 1, 2, holds his fist up, yanks it back, and taps. I adored that finish. I love that. Technically, at least from MJF's character perspective, he out-wrestled Brian Danielson with Brian Danielson's own move. That is going to play into his character so well, and he will probably bring it up from now until the end of time, which he should. And that was the end of the match. Brilliant. I think the only criticism I have of this match is that I think it was a done deal, at least, that MJF was going to win. And that took away a little bit of the drama for me. Tiniest little bit of the drama for me. Because I was fully under the impression that MJF was going to win. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And from top to bottom, this was an incredible show. It was just, I'm saying it a lot, like flawless. All the negatives that I have, I can easily brush to one side because the show and the wrestling was so good and the storytelling was so good. I'm hoping that AEW can get back on track now with the storytelling. Yeah? Because this, for me, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. It's a 4.5 out of 5 show. Check it out. You really, really should, because it's great. Sorry if this one's been a little bit rambly. I try my best. You know what I mean. 4.5 out of 5. Let me know what you think of AEW Revolution down in the comments below, and I'll try and reply to every single one of them. Thank you all ever so much for your support, and have a nice day.